I talk to so many sales leaders and so many people, even though we interview for the company, and they'll be talking to us being like, yeah, I do cold calling. We're making, I'm making probably $5-6 dials a day. So 30, 40 a week. I'm like, oh, dude, what? Like,
yikes.
Baseline, like already you're so far behind where you could be with such an easy tweak.
Got questions, we bring the facts. From proven pros who walk the tracks. Business life, no smoke, just flames. Ask the experts, David Williams brings the game.
Good morning, Insurance Syndicate Group, and good morning, America and Canada today. Actually, we have an incredible guest, and you're in Toronto, correct? Downtown?
Toronto, Canada, downtown. You can see the condos behind me.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. I wish we had time to maybe have you do a walkthrough of your office because the floor is incredible, but we're going to dive right in. Today is December 11th, 2025, and this is the next to last episode of Ask the Experts. And we're coming back at you next year with a brand new stack of experts, but we wanted to finish really strong this year. And today I have the pleasure of bringing in Andrew Hendry. I've known Andrew for many years. I don't know if it's been maybe 7 or 8, but Andrew's an incredible human. I first met him when he was managing a large team for a company out of Canada that was helping marketing for real estate agents. But what I saw in Andrew was something extremely unique in his leadership ability and his ability to get results himself and then translate those results to others, which is a rarity, right? To be able to be the best producer, but also be able to pass those skills and create other top producers. So I remember when I got the text or call or Snapchat from you that in 2020, you launched your own company focused on helping real estate agents position themselves as the dominant local expert in their markets. No investors, no shortcuts, just cold calls, grit, and a vision to solve real world problems. And I know that you've built one of the highest performing cold call teams, probably in Canada, maybe in the world. And you created a predictable system that delivers massive, massive value to your clients and a system that's exploded into one of the fastest scaling businesses in the real estate marketing world, which is huge. And today I know your company is on track to hit 20 million in revenue this year, growing 200% year over year since the day it launched, powered by, and I've seen them, elite cold callers and proven conversion processes, serving real estate agents nationwide with local expert marketing solutions. Look, I know a few things about you, and I just took some notes here before we jump in so people can get to know you. I know that you personally are an expert in cold calling. I know that for sure, but also that you're able to translate those skills to others. Also on the business growth side, being able to scale sales and marketing and recruiting, and also being an expert closer, right? To be a great cold caller, but not be able to close isn't worth much. So I know you've mastered the art of closing. Beyond all that, I think one of the things we've shared in common for a long time is the mindset required to scale something from 0 to 8 figures without outside capital, and just the grit and determination to do that. And I also know that you've got maybe some of the personal side of the story we can talk through today, some of the lessons of faith and family and leadership and the moments that have shaped you. So this is going to be kind of an unfiltered conversation, but a high impact conversation. So let's welcome today's guest, Andrew, to the show. Welcome, Andrew.
Let's do it. Thank you for having me, man.
Of course. Yeah, I want to dive right in and sort of rewind the clock. Like before we get into the first 6 months when you launched your own thing, could you explain to me a little bit of how you first got into cold calling and like the space in general of what I would call true sales, right? Not order taking, but going out and creating your own economy. And like, what was your first job making calls? What was that like for you? Do you have any awesome war stories from like your first few months on the phones? Take us back.
Oh, dude, I was so bad. Like I was so you bigged me up there in the intro, so I'll have to try to live up to that. But the first 6 months were just horrible. I remember, so the thing that got me into sales, I mean, money's always been a big motivator for me. Grew up in a family where maybe that wasn't always the most readily available thing in abundance. And I think for a lot of people who grow up in an environment like that, it's sort of grass is greener, want what you can't have type situation, right? So if you grow up with a ton of money, I find those people are often maybe not the most ambitious. And again, there's obviously tons of exceptions to every rule, but then I also find people who grow up maybe not with absolute abundance all around them, that they're often quite hungry for something like that. So for me, I always thought the legal world was where people made a ton of money, which maybe down in the States that's the case, but up here in Canada, not as much as suits and all the other stuff might make it seem like. So kind of explored going into law school and didn't get in a bunch of times, wasn't my thing. So someone along the line told me you should check out sales. You know, you can make good money doing sales and you're good at talking to people, so check it out. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. I applied for like 300 jobs across Toronto at a sales role, but my resume was very book pushing, legal admin heavy. So I didn't really get a lot of interviews. And I remember the first interview that I did get was at a recruiting firm. That was the guy made me role play on the spot in an interview. And having never done sales, a role play is, I mean, even people who do sales, role playing is an arduous task. But for someone who'd never done it before, I'll skip to the end of that. I did not get that job. Not do well in that role play. So I actually ended up getting a job at that company you had mentioned, where I ended up being their sales leader. They were a really small startup here in Toronto. My first day at work was in the CEO's condo. So it was like proper startup. So it was the CEO, his wife, a web designer, and one other sales guy, and then myself. So I got an interview with that company, got hired the same day, which was awesome. I thought it was because I was great, but I think it was because they were just in like desperate scale mode. Let's just hire anybody we can and see what happens. And yeah, that's kind of how I got into the game. War stories, though, I mean, we need a couple podcasts for that. I think you need a few in terms of war stories, but yeah, it just came down to just so much training to actually get good. But the beginning was, oh, dude, I almost got fired from that job 7 or 8 times inside the first month, just for missing quotas, KPIs being not where they needed to be, no bookings, no closings, just.
Were they mentoring you, Andrew, or were you kind of just figuring it out yourself? Like, I guess I'll go get some data and like I'll call some people. I mean,
my training was on day 1 until 11 a.m. So I started making my first cold calls 2 hours into my sales career. They kind of gave me what was a paper script that had been written by probably the CEO at the time, kind of a run through on what the company did, and then a power dialer. They go out there and book some demos, man. So I started. It was a full cycle sales role. So for anybody listening, it was booking the demos, and then you'd actually sit the product demos, and if you're responsible for closing them too. But in the first week, they kind of just said, look, just be a BDR, just set some meetings for our current sales guy, and we'll go from there. So my first day, I booked 12 meetings, which was crazy good, I thought. Which, for sure, if you're booking 12 meetings a day, like, I don't really care what industry you're in. If you're booking 12 meetings a day and they're good meetings, oh, dude, you're killing it. But these were all bad meetings. I think of the 12 that I booked, none of them showed up for their call because they were just 1 minute pitch in and out, no discovery, no pain, no nothing. Just, hey, I've got a product. You want to look at it? And they were like, you poor thing, man. Yeah,
you're like, sure, bud, absolutely. Yeah. Meanwhile, it's like the real estate agent's painter.
Oh, dude, literally, they're like, yeah, we'll book a meeting. I'm like, oh, dude, this is gonna be easy. 3s all day, layups. None of the meetings showed, but yeah, that was the first couple of days.
Man, oh man! And when you kind of got into the game, I'd be really curious on the scientific side of it, and I'll share something with you. Maybe it'll inspire part of this conversation. When I went to work for the gentleman that, was kind of the mutual link between you and I, what happened was I loaded in like 3,000 cold leads for myself. I called them over the course of a couple of months. And obviously, if you're making 200 to 300 calls a day, you have 3,000 leads. You're only able to get to each lead once, like every 2 to 3 weeks. Yep. So I missed the whole mark because I had no idea of lead penetration, right? It was like, more leads is better. And then somebody finally steered me in the right direction, was like, let's dial this in. Like, you need to be working like 500 leads, because then you'll touch each lead once every other day, maybe every 3 days. They'll remember you, your conversion rate will be higher. And so that changed a lot for me, where once I started putting in 3, 5, 8 dials per lead, I started to get pickups and starting to get demos. And then the final phase of that learning curve, which almost ended in disaster and an eviction, was essentially understanding that not everybody's going to be a one-call close. That's the intention, but there's going to be individuals that essentially, give you that little wink, wink, hint, hint, I might be interested, and they hang up, and you got to hang on to them and have a proper follow-up process for it. So when I got those two things dialed in, I started making money, and then it was scalable. And I'm curious for you, like those were my scientific discoveries through just self-learning. I'm curious for you what some of the aha moments were. I'm sure in addition, I'm sure you had to learn those lessons as well. But like if there's anybody out there thinking, I've got a team of people, we want to do more cold calling, we want to enable them to, be better with their time when they're doing outbound activity. What are some of the, like, I would call them like the laws of cold calling that you kind of discovered early on that are staples today?
Yeah, that's a good question. You asked if they were mentoring me at the company that you found me at, and not any fault of their own, but they were a very, very young company, and their CEO and their founder were kind of flying around the US trying to look for capital and going to 500 startups and all these events. So it was me and one or two other very rookie sales guys kind of trying to battle through it on our own. And so I think one of the foundations that I learned pretty quickly that no one's coming to save you in sales. Like you might have people around you who can help you and point you in the right direction, but the blessing and the curse is that it's all up to you. It's all in your hand. You need to do it. Like there's so many little things that can enable you better in sales, and there's little things that can tip the scales in your direction. But the reality is you just got to put in the work. That's step one. Like I talk to so many sales leaders and so many people, even though we interview for the company, and they'll be talking to us being like, yeah, I do cold calling. We're making, I'm making probably 5-6 dials a day. So 30, 40 a week. I'm like, oh, dude, what? Like,
yikes.
Baseline, like already you're so far behind where you could be with such an easy tweak, right? And I think one of the fundamentals is just like, it's going to take you so much more effort than you think. So just get ready to do so much more than you think you have to do, right? So if you're coming in being like, all right, man, I'm going to make 200 calls this week. No, do that before noon. Like shorten your timeline. Mel Robbins, that I think she wrote the book 5-Second Rule. She does a lot of content, but one of the things she says is that your tasks will, and what you need to do or what you give yourself to do will grow. They'll expand and they'll shrink into the timeline you give them. Mm-hmm. So if you tell yourself, I'm going to make 200 calls this week, it's going to take you all week to do 200 calls. But if you come in with the intention, and you said that word a couple of times, and I really love that word. If you go in with the intention to be like, I got to do 200 calls by noon, even if you don't do it, let's say you hit 175, well, suddenly you're 80% of the way through what you gave yourself for the week by lunch on Monday. And I think that's one of the baselines is there's just no excuses in this business and in this game, especially when you're talking specifically about cold calling. You just need to do it in high volume. And one of my old business partners used to say, even a blind hen will find a grain of corn from time to time. On the idea that he was English, so he got away with saying it a lot more charming than that. But I think it comes down to like, before you get good, it doesn't actually matter. You just need to have the foundation of doing a lot of work. I have a 13-year-old brother, and if I gave him our script and told him to make 5,000 calls, he would book some meetings, man. Like he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know the concepts behind sales. He doesn't know the influence, but he'd book some meetings because he has a process that he's repeating a lot of times.
Amen. No, that's an incredible way to look at it. And I think that I found the name of that law last night you were talking about for those technicals on here that are like, what's the name of that? It's called the, oh man, I screenshotted the wrong thing. Anyway, the Mel Robbins deal. It's so true. I had a friend recommend, where's it at? I have one of those little timers on my desk you can flip. Yeah. You can condense time and be like, I have 25 minutes and I'm going to sprint. And you're right. And, the intention piece is really important too, because I've seen people, there's this one kid I used to work with that made an incredible amount of call volume. I mean, he was an animal. He just he was always literally 7 hours of talk time a day. Like dude was not on the phone. But he failed out. He never closed a deal. And if I were to look at why that was, it was his intention. His intention was to make a lot of calls. His intention wasn't to convert people. So like there's that whole element as well. And what I'm curious about for you is, and whether or not this goes into your own experience cold calling or now having like a very large team and training them to do the same, what sort of, staying on the law topic, what kind of laws are there around like, not the perfect cold call, we can say perfect, but a cold call that's going to get somebody to stop and actually pay attention to you, and B, set a real appointment that they show up for versus a fake appointment that never actually walks into that meeting? I'm curious what you teach your guys and girls there.
Yeah, man, that's such a good question. It's called Parkinson's law, by the way. I Googled it while you were chatting. So it's Mel Robbins' thing is Parkinson's law.
Okay.
The tasks will expand and shrink. I think this could be a theme of our conversation unintentionally, but I think it comes down to intention again. And so I've seen people who come into our company and they're putting up 400, 500 dials a day. And like, for anyone who's making cold calls, like, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. And to your point, without a result, that's emotionally unsustainable. Like, you can make 500 calls a day. If at the end of the year, I'm going to cut you a check for $1 million, you'll make 500 calls a day and you won't burn out. You'll be fired up all year and be ready to roll. But if at 500 calls a day for a month, you haven't booked a meeting, it's unsustainable. And so I think it comes back down to the word that we're going to keep using, it seems, is intent. If you're coming in with the intention to do 500 calls, you'll do it, but then you got the result you asked for. You got what you intended to do. You did it. You succeeded in a way because you got the 500 calls. Your manager might not see that as a success, and your income might not see that as a success, but you set the wrong intention. And so I think setting intention for booking good meetings, and I think the way that I've always grounded it is really intending on detaching from the outcome. Yeah, my goal is to book a meeting. The proviso being if that meeting is serving the person with whom I'm booking it. And so if I use that as my baseline of, hey, I'm only going to book a meeting if it actually is going to help the person I'm talking to. I'm not here to book meetings. My intention is to find people I can help. So if you use that as your baseline, meetings will come and they'll be with the right people, and you will take just inherently more time to do a really good discovery and ask really good, deep level questions that pull out real pain, real challenges, real goals, because your intention is on the other person's well-being. And so instead of focusing on, I'm going to book 3 meetings today, man, I'm going to book as many meetings today with as many people I connect with who need what I have to offer. And I think that also comes back down to the foundation of what burns a lot of people out in sales. From my perspective, your job as a cold caller is not to book everyone you talk to. It's not to convert people who aren't interested into a meeting. It's to find people who have base level interest or who are open, discover why they're open, and leverage that openness into booking a meeting with your company because, again, going back down to my basic, I have something that can actually help them.
Amen, man. I love that. And I love that you bring that up. And it's funny. We're unintentionally talking about intention, or maybe it is intentional, but you're right. Like, that's a really good way to shake yourself out of a mental rut as well. I've found is if you just go like, maybe my numbers have been off. Maybe I'm in that spot where I could just like explode internally. Maybe I'm the guy on the parking lot, like chain smoking cigarettes because I'm so stressed out on the phones.
Yeah, we've been there.
Like, to walk in and say, like, I'm just going to go into today to like serve. I think, business owners like you guys call on, and most consumers are smart enough to feel a sales pitch versus somebody who actually can solve a problem. And like, that's what sells anyway. The sales pitch doesn't sell, the solution sells. So when you go into it with that, you have to understand your product and service. You've got to be more curious about, how do I understand the pain that this person is going through? Because if you want to serve at the highest level and you want to help people, it's just going to make you better. And then you combine that times 15, 20, 25,000 calls. And you have so much time on the field that eventually you can walk into that call, and I'm going to be controversial. And I actually want your take on this.
Sure.
I believe at some point you can completely wing it and have no script and just understand the consumer, understand the problem they have and the solution that you have. And as crazy as it might seem, you could do 10 different calls, 10 different ways and get the same result because you're speaking their language. You're not speaking the language of a salesperson anymore. You're speaking the language of a consultant, of somebody who's going to solve a problem for them. And like, I think that's when things get incredible because it's no longer about thinking about doing better. It's no longer, I'm a B negative or a B plus player when it comes to the phone call quality. I'm always A plus because I always know how to help people. And I even know problems they have that they don't even know they have. And I can educate them on it. And then it magnetizes people once you connect on a call where they're like, I'm glad you called me versus like buzz off, bing. So I'm curious for you. I'm like, what that looked like for you when you went through that phase, because I'm assuming you have. And then also, like, when you look at your team, do you expect everybody to get to that level, or do you expect there to be kind of the cream that rises to the top, and maybe you have your top 10% that operate there, but everybody else just mentally needs a constant roadmap and auditing by you and listening to their calls? Like, how in the world do you, like, what expectations do you have for that when it comes to your team?
Yeah, good question. I think that's a layered answer, because I think that answer depends on how far along they are in their training with us and their development with us. At the beginning, my expectation is to read the script to as many people as you can every day, because just by doing that, you're going to get better at all the other things that are going to, contribute to your growth further. And I don't disagree with what you said. I'm obviously a huge script guy. If anybody's ever looked at any of my content, I'm a big script guy, and I know at some level you are as well. But I think the caveat to what you said is that, and you said this, at some point, you can get to the level where you don't need a script, you can wing every call. And I think that point is a lot further down the line for most people than they think it is. I think they think they're ready to wing it a lot sooner than they are. And don't get me wrong, if I went and cold called an agent right now, I know where I would go with the conversation, because the other thing is, once you've made 100,000 or 500,000 or a million phone calls with one market and one niche, you also start to recognize there's only about 9 conversations that you have. There's only 9 types of really roads they can go down. There's only so many things that someone can say to you in the context of your product or your service, that nothing becomes a surprise anymore. And you're just sort of reactive in a positive way. Like, oh, we're going to go down this road. Okay, no problem. I know where this conversation goes most of the time. And if it breaks off, no problem. I know where that break off line goes most of the time. And when you can, like, going back to what we're talking about, when you can just have that baseline of, I'm here to serve, that just, and I think it allows people to be really comfortable with disqualifying people too, being like, listen, man, I'm actually not going to book a meeting with you. And that means that's okay with me, because I shouldn't book a meeting with you because you don't need what I have. And hey, by the way, here's 3 companies I know that could serve your specific circumstance so much better than I could. I'm going to send you an email and you should explore these 3 companies. Man, that is such a pattern interrupt for most prospects, that a salesperson goes, hey man, super quick, after 5 minutes of chatting with you, don't sign up for my service. I can't help you the way that I think you need to be helped, or that you're expressing that you need help. These companies can. I'm actually going to make a personal connection because I actually know that the manager over there or whatever. Let me connect you with them. The day that person needs anything close to what you have, dude, they're saving your email, they're saving your number, they're coming to you. So I think, going back to the basic, if you're doing that at scale, you're so much volume, so many calls, you're connecting with people that you're actually trying to serve. There's just so many touch points you have in the universe that it's inevitable that it starts to come back to you over time.
Amen. Oh man, that is so true. I've seen that play out so many times. I had a client a couple of years ago that we decided was not a good fit. Even just a couple of days after, once we started to really get deep into the need, had already collected a down payment. Sure. And just had a very similar conversation. But a lot of companies will, like, hold on to money. And it was no, here you go. Like, here's your money, and here's advisement where you should go. And I still remember to this day, 2 years later, he called me when something was close to the need that we could provide. And he was like, I still will never forget you guys so quickly just taking care of that. And like, I have referrals for you. And it just, I mean, what goes around comes around. And
we've got one of our sales guys, like, right now, actively, there's a guy who signed up for our service on a 6-month agreement, and he came to the onboarding call. And I guess whether it was miscommunication in the sales process, or it doesn't matter why, but we got to the onboarding, and our onboarding team realized, like, man, we can't do what you want us to do. So my onboarding team came to me and said, look, we have to just refund this guy. We can't do it for him. Like, we could Mickey Mouse it together, but the results aren't going to be there. It's going to be just no good for anybody. So we obviously, like, give him his money back. That was 3 or 4 months ago. Every few weeks, that guy calls our sales guy being like, hey man, I've been thinking about how maybe we can work together. Could you do this? And it's like, not quite the way you want it done. Like, but again, go here. And he's like, I don't want to go there. I want to work with you guys. Like, how can we make this happen? And you've got people now, because you have the baseline, I want to help this person, because you have that genuinely in your heart. You have people like, please, can I give you money? Please, please.
Yeah. Because it's so refreshing. They don't get that anywhere else. And like, it's just like truth sells. And when you're telling the truth, it actually makes the sales job really easy, right? Because you don't really have to think about like, how do I manipulate the situation or like fit this in to like collect revenue?
No.
It's the opposite of that. It's like, how do I just remain truthful and highly knowledgeable and at an expert level on what we can do to solve this problem? And if there's a fit, there's a fit. And like, they're going to feel that. And if there's not a fit, they're going to feel that too. And I love this part of the conversation because there's a lot of sleazy cold call outfits that really it's more about Wolf of Wall Street. Let's just slam dunk every deal versus this, which is sustainable and it's long-term and it builds culture. Now, I want to, before we take a lens backward, because I want to talk about some mistakes that are made by callers and like how you correct those in your organization. But before we go there, I want to kind of take a sidestep into something that I think you probably have a lot of knowledge on. We didn't talk before this audience, so this is sort of off the cuff. But no script whatsoever. I got a cheat sheet, some ideas, but I'm pretty much writing on the back of the page. So the thing about communication. So the laws of communication, when you start to look into, we talked about going off script, or even if you're on script, I think there's a connection you've got to make with people. And it's like trying to have compatibility with them is really important. So I'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about, and then I'd love your feedback and your expertise on this. So a mistake I frequently make, and I've gotten a lot better at it, but it's still something I work on. Business owner, consumer asks a question. And what comes back out of my mouth is all this stuff versus just like, hey, if this were to happen, then what? Well, you see, let me tell you a story about a client and all these things. You go into this whole road versus like, if that were to happen, this would happen. And I think as sales professionals, we can get in our own head. If I don't frame this and position this the right way, I'm going to lose them when really it's their right to just have the truth. And it's also, you know, if you talk to somebody, if you guys cold call like Jersey or New York, you call a New York business owner or consumer and you give them the old, like where I'm from, the old Ohio runaround, they're going to hang up on you versus a great deal of respect for a sales professional. That's just like, that's a question. Here's an answer. What's next? That's a question. Here's an answer. What's next? So I'd be curious, in addition to that, quote unquote law, sort of the communication laws that you try to teach your team and that you guys operate with, that just has to do with like, here's how to become an excellent communicator, because if you can do that, you're going to be great on the calls.
Yeah. Wow. That's, we actually just, we just finished my business development management team and myself just redid all of our internal training modules to include, I think it was around 20 or 25, like really specific communication. And they're like more advanced stuff in the sense that you don't need to know what they are to talk to people, but some of that more advanced stuff in terms of those, the communication skills. And I think if you bring it back to what's the purpose of that question? So again, intent, what's their intent with that question? So sometimes I think salespeople can get themselves into trouble because if you do just start answering questions, sometimes, I mean, as you know, people who, if you're asking the questions, you're in control. If you're answering the questions, they're in control. And sometimes they need to be in control, and that's fine, especially if they're from New York or Jersey. They need to feel like they're in control the whole time. And that's okay.
You just New York, New Jersey, by the way. That's not a knock. My wife's a New Yorker, so like I love it.
Oh, dude, New York's one of the greatest places in the US. I love it there. But that's just how they are. And I think if you're talking to somebody in Ohio, you know, it's about, I think mirroring is one of those strategies that's really important. And understanding the avatar or the persona of the person you're talking to and putting it back in front of them. Similarly, if you're talking to somebody down in Texas, you're talking to somebody who has that Southern hospitality and you're steamrolling them with answers to their question, they're going to be like, oh man, like that's not how I communicate. So I think one of the baseline, you know, laws of communication, as far as I see it, is communicating in a style in which you're being communicated with. And I think that's a big piece of it, is understanding, like, how's this person talking to me? Do they speak slowly? Are they laughing a lot? Are they direct? Are they uppity and really excited? Are they excitable? I should be those things too. And not in a way that's dishonest or disingenuous, but in a way that encourages honest communication. Because if I'm going to help somebody, I need them to be open about often some pretty sensitive topics. And so if I'm going to get them to be open, they need to feel comfortable with me. And people are most comfortable with people who are like them. So you need, in a way, to be like them. And so I think when you're in that position where you're getting asked questions and you obviously need to provide an answer, you mentioned it. It's funny because I have this tendency too, and I might be doing it right now. Is to give this long-winded like explanation and story and back thing to why, or to the answer. Where I think if you just kind of, I teach my people to take a minute to understand the intention of the question. So a question we get a lot is, is your service pay after closing? As if to say, do we pay you once we get a sale, or do we have to pay you up front?
Mm.
The answer is you have to pay us up front. That's a brash thing to just, yep, you pay us up front and then stop talking. That's a tough thing to just leave on the table. So understanding that in our industry, people probably ask that because they've paid for a lot of stuff up front that hasn't worked out.
Yeah.
So that question's probably coming from a place of fear. So probably addressing that place is like, instead of just answering them, hey, look, we have a lot of flexible payment options, most of which involve paying before the service starts. But it kind of sounds like you might be asking that question because you've invested in things in the past that maybe haven't worked out so well. And putting a question back to them in the context of what they asked. So you've given them an answer. Yes, it's an upfront payment. However, let's unpack that just a little bit to figure out why you're asking the question so I can address that fear. And again, if you're booking a demo with somebody who understands there's an upfront investment and has sort of been eased into the idea that I understand why you're asking that question, because I understand my industry and understand my clients, and because I also understand our competitors like burn people a lot and things don't work out. There's so much in there psychologically that's comforting to your prospect instead of just answering the question and waiting for the next one.
100%. No, I really appreciate that. And that goes along with what you said about mirroring, right? That some people are just going to want a dead straight answer. And if you try to even explain it that way, you also got to listen for cues. Or like, no, like just tell, like, I'm just looking for a black and white answer. Is it all up front or not? Like you'll get some people like that, but you're answering it in a very short window of time without giving them a runaround, but you're, really getting to the core of where their question came from and what their intention was in asking it. So it's like, that's that expert level is understanding the little hole or slot in their brain they're trying to fill in with your answer, and being able to, walk them into being able to fill that spot in their brain in an ethical fashion that like checks that box for them, right? Like you visualize somebody's like brain has these check boxes, and like you're just trying to help them check off the box while being accurate with them. Also, we might be having Andrew reconnect here because it looks like oh no, we're good.
There we go.
If you ever go out, I'm doing like an intermission. We'll grab some popcorn. But no, I really appreciate that. And one of the things too that I'd be curious about is when you start to look at leading a team like you do, I'd like to kind of do a semi-rapid fire round of questions for you. I'm basically going to ask you 3 times to answer what one of the biggest mistakes is that you see made that costs your people results on the phones, and then the fix for it, how you actually would prescribe a fix for a business owner watching this who's like, oh, I got that problem too. How do you fix it? So it doesn't have to be in any particular order, but I'd say what's like one of the top reasons why somebody would fail on the phones, and then like, what's your fix for it? And we can do like 2 or 3 of these just to give, really, I'm looking for your expertise here. You know what I mean? And like, you have a lot of experience on that side of it.
Sure. Yeah. So one of the biggest problems I think I see people making is being attached to the wrong outcome. So looking for, I need to get a booking today. I need to get a sale today. I need to hit this quota today. Like people focus on a lot of things that, as much as we as salespeople like to believe that we have all this control and influence and we can make things happen and we're like these conversational wizards sometimes. And then sometimes it's not your day. It's not your week. It's not your month. It's not your quarter. Maybe it's not your year. I don't know. But I think people focus on the wrong outcome. And so for me as a leader, one of my core jobs as a leader is to keep the ship going in the right direction. And that involves making sure that all the rowers and everybody who's rowing the boat is all rowing in the same direction and with power and intent, and the ship moves. And so I think the mistake a lot of leaders make is they kind of detach from the sales team really early on, if they're ever attached to it at all. And don't give that like one-on-one personal guidance. And if you're listening and you have a team of 300 people, okay, that maybe is tough at scale. But then you have 5 or 6 people or 10 people or 15 people that you've put in place to do these things. And I think that the fix is recenter their attention on, you're here to help people. You're here to help people. You're here to go find people to help. Go find people to help. And even sometimes, and this is a long answer to this rapid fire question, but even sometimes as easy as like, hey, go help one of your colleagues out on a deal they're working on. Go get lunch for somebody. Go like, just go do something that is in pursuit of service of others. And you start to reframe yourself on like an atomic level. Like you've reframed your intention so deep internally that you get back on the phones and your frame is different and it's focused on others now.
No, I absolutely love that. That's a really good piece of advice. And I love how you said you like literally like restructure or reframe like at an atomic level. And you got to take that action step to like reframe it. It can't just be like sitting there staring at a piece of paper. Here's my intention. I love that you like get people into action. All right. Rapid fire number 2. What is another major hurdle, something that you often find yourself needing to correct on the sales process, the calling process, something with your team that comes up more than once a week that, you know, can cost the business a lot of money? And also, how do you fix it?
Well, the 8 things just came into my head all at once. As far as sales process goes, I think objection handling in one particular facet. I think the objection that every salesperson hates to hear, it's just, I need to think about it. I think the stall objections really, really hurt a lot of salespeople. And it's actually one of the ones that on our team that I constantly just really have to reinforce and reemphasize and push back into. I think as a business owner, to solve it, first and foremost, and this is where I think a lot of leaders maybe miss the mark, a lot of the business owners I know are not necessarily like really good at sales. They're really good inventors. They're really good like idea people. They're really good creators. They're geniuses in so many areas. But I think so many really good ideas fail to get off the ground because they don't personally know how to generate revenue, or they don't personally know how to acquire clients. So they hire people to do it for them. And when their people get stuck in the mud, they don't have the experience to go in there and be like, I've done this before, I know, and this is how I fixed it. This is how I got out of the place you're in right now. So I think so many people come to me and come to our leaders on the team because they know, oh, Andy's done my job before, like for a long time with good levels of success. Like I can ask him and trust what he has to say because he's done it before. And so when I give them the advice, more often than not, they apply it because they can kind of trust I'm coming from a place of knowledge and experience. So I think, I don't know if this is a solution, but I think as a business owner, like go generate some business yourself too. Like learn how to do these things hands-on so you can give practical advice to your team.
Wow. No, 100%. Like I want somebody out there to hear that message and say, yeah, but I've been doing this I'm 8 years in business. It's like, cool. Long overdue.
Yeah, sweet, man. Sounds like you got 8 years of cold calls to make. So, let's pick up the phone and generate. I mean, again, it comes down to intent, right? Like, hey, why did you start a business? Why are you in business? What did you do this for? Well, to help people. All right, man. Well, go help some people then. You know, I did this because I want to create a legacy. Okay, well, go create a legacy, man. Though, but those are all verbs. There's action that has to be taken to do those things. And that action always for me has always just come back to just like activity. Just do. Don't think about it. Don't worry too much about it. Just do stuff. And the dust kicks up when you do stuff and things happen.
100%, man. I think that sometimes business owners' close rate can get near 100%. Like when they really have conviction and they understand the problem they're solving deeply. And it was always amazing to me, like to see an executive or an owner of a company touch somebody in a completely different way than a sales script. And 100%. It was just an instant yes. I mean, it was just like, yeah, we want to do business with you guys because they feel the conviction and the passion from that owner. The owner is the one that crafted the solution. So it was like, if you're the one that like came up with the tire fixing shop and you're not just like pitching tires, but you're like, this is why we do it this way. And these are the lifts we use so it doesn't damage your car. And like, I really thought through like the tire pressures and like we do something that actually saves you gas mileage. Be like, sign me up, give me a set of tires versus like, let me quote you on 4 sets of tires. It's just two completely different animals. So like to your point, even if a business owner is scared to do that because that's not where they come from, they don't need to necessarily be a salesperson. They just need to have conviction and a deep understanding of the problem they solve. And like that will speak its own truth. And then they could, I mean, in essence, record that, transcribe it, or let their team listen to it. And then their team's actually going to speak at a deeper level about the solution than just reading from a script. Now the script might change. They may be like, guys, I wrote the script all wrong. We need to totally change this thing because if I read that, it would not connect with people. So I think it's what you're saying is super important for a business owner. And then I want to bring this back to one more segment here. And I know we could talk through the science of cold calling all day, and we could talk about scripting and all these different areas. But I want to ask you on the business scaling side, what has been the most gratifying, the best part of, going from a couple of team members there to like what you operate now? Like when you walk through there today, and I know how you're driven, Andrew. I know that you're probably, from what I've seen, very hard on yourself. You probably always want more naturally. Sure. And I'm sure that it's never resting on your laurels. But like in those rare moments where Andrew Hendry sits down and goes like, like think back to 2020 and like here we are now. What's been the most gratifying part for you in developing that team, helping them be successful, and just building what you've built? Because I've seen it, man. It's been incredible.
Thanks, man. I think there's a lot of levels to it, but it's funny you asked that question now. I think that answer, if you asked me that answer once a year, I think it would change at different points of the business. If you asked me in 2021, I would have said something way different than 22 and 23. But I think for the last couple of years, as things have started to scale and really, take off, that we have, product market fit, and we have a concept that's scaling, and everything's just sort of clicking together. And for those of you who have a business that's under 5 years old and you haven't felt that yet, that adage does seem to be very true. It takes 5 years. It really does. Like if you look at our numbers and all of our metrics, the parabolic curve that happens, or the exponential growth that happened at year 5 and a day, was just crazy. Now, I also I found God around that same time, so I could have a conversation down that road too. But I think there's no coincidence that I found God, and the business started really exploding after I put my faith in Him and gave credit to Him, because I'm just the vessel pushing through here. But I think when it comes down to it, we had our Christmas party last Friday, and obviously, I mean, 2 years ago we had 15 people at the Christmas party. I think there were 70 people there this year. Most of which were our team, but some of their wives and partners and spouses and things like that. And we had it outside of the office at an event space down here. And I did have that moment where I was just like, cool, man. Yeah, this is cool. Like, this is, we built this. This is something that didn't exist. And the answer to your question is, I have 45 or 50 people in front of me are going to pay their mortgage this month with what we're doing here. They're going to feed their kids. They're going to buy their Christmas presents for their family with money that we helped them make, money that we taught them how to make, money that they make because of what we're doing here. Like, these people are feeding their family because of the business. And man, is that fulfilling. I'll tell you, that is something where you wake up in the morning with a fire under your ass going, oh, dude, I can't slack today. I got 50 people in here who are looking at me going, what's next, coach? Where are we going? What do I do today? What's next? And dude, you can't, it's not about you anymore. It's outside of you. It's so far outside of you. And then all the stuff that you benefit from as a business owner, that comes as a result of doing those things, of focusing on those things. And again, going back to what we talked about at the beginning, the intention to serve.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that in such a vulnerable way. My wife and I have an inside joke on an old season of American Idol. J-Lo was on there, and she used to go, "Goosies, goosies," which is when she would hear a singer that just put those goosebumps all the way down your spine. Like, I got goosies just now. So I'm happy to be your business,
J-Lo. I'll take that title.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to see. And wow, it's a big moment for me too. Because like I remember working with you back in like 2017, 2018, and you were kind of at this crossroads, and you had like people that you were helping manage, and and then eventually just said, I'm going to take the leap. And it's really amazing, even just a few years later, to see what you've built. And I'm excited to see where that goes. And then on that topic, to kind of take us home, any new ventures, any new personal ventures, any new mountains that you're looking to climb outside of obviously just continuing to scale the organization?
Yeah, actually, I don't know if I mentioned this to you or not. I probably have somewhere on the line. I got a book coming out tomorrow, which is cool.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, it should. I mean,
This was
Amazon's
not
just came
planned. It sounds like
No,
a
no,
perfect
no.
plug,
This
but it was
is,
not
I
planned.
know that was
Tomorrow.
crazy question timing. I've been working on it basically all year. I set an intention at the start of the year to write and publish a book this year. Got it written finished around July, August. It's going through a publishing house. It's on Amazon now, but it's not, you can't purchase it yet. They're just like doing their final little reviews to make sure that I'm not saying any insane things in there, which I'm not. But it really revolves around, it's called Be First, Outsell Everyone. And it revolves around a lot of those communication skills and tactics and things that a salesperson can apply every single day without getting any better at their job. Just little tiny things that really move the needle one at a time. And it's sort of meant to be sort of a tactical field guide instead of a lot of this concept and bigger thinking. Like, it's really like, hey, do this exact thing. There's a lot of our scripts in there, a lot of like objection handles, things that have really worked for us over the years. So I'm excited about that.
Wow, that's incredible. If you would send a link over, Andrew, I'm super excited for you, and I'll definitely pick up a copy and get some copies out to friends. But if you could share the link over with me, I'll make sure to get it out to the group and within the links for the publishing on Spotify and Apple and YouTube and all that. We would love to have people be able to dive in and understand that it's not coming from somebody who set out just to write a book. It came from somebody who has, been there in the seat, gone through a lot of challenges, and obviously scaled something massive and continues to do so. So that's amazing.
Cool, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I could literally sit down and talk with you all day. We go back, and I just really appreciate your mindset, your faith, your ability to just get hard things done and do it over and over and over again, but then to help others do the same. So this has been great having you on, and we'll have to have you back sometime next year after the book launches and continue the conversation if you're down.
100%, man. 100%. Thanks for having me. I always walk away from our conversations like so juiced up. Like, I'm going to leave my office right now and just like get onto the sales floor and just be like, oh, what's up, boys? Let's go. Like, just get absolutely rowdy. Yeah.
Oh, I do have one little thing I'll drop in that you guys can try.
Sure.
The whole upfront payment thing you were talking about, my mind was going, I was like, don't go into script mode, Andy. But like, tell you what, there's one line I used to use with that for like upfront payments. And for whatever reason, with the right person, it just works. Sure. So we'll be weird. We'll role play real quick. So hit me with the question. Is it paid up front or is it paid upon closing?
Andy, I'm going to stop you right there, man. Is this an upfront payment, or do I pay after I close some business?
Yeah, no. Of course it's an upfront payment. It's kind of like the mafia, right? Like, we both roll up in a back alley and Escalades. Like, you throw out the cash, we throw out the goods. It's a perfect transaction. And like, that's how we've always done things. And like that line, I have no idea why. I just came up with it one day for the upfront payment. 90% of people just start laughing. They're like, okay, cool. Cause they feel like they're in on something covert. Dude, and it's such an interesting psychology.
There's so much to unpack there. Like, you're such a pattern interrupt. No other sales guy is being like, yeah, man, you're in the mafia with me. Like, that's a different thing already. You've also used something that I use daily, constantly in sales, is humor. Just have a laugh, lighten it up. I think people can get pretty serious in sales calls. So if you can just lighten it up, have a laugh. Can I share, just before, you just reminded me, back in like 2016 or 17, you helped me with an objection handle with what I was selling prior. And I think a few years into my career with them, I was put on the retention team, which obviously, for anybody who does client retention, challenging role in a sales context. Because I mean, you're trying to resell something to people that they've used, tried, touched, and they're not happy with it. And you're trying to get more of an investment. One of the more challenging sales roles, I would say. So I was put into that role. And I remember I came to you and I was like, man, it's just, our product's cool, but no one ever uses it. Like, they buy it, it sits there. And then I try to renew them after a year and they're like, oh, dude, I didn't use it. And I remember in the same line of that humorous objection handling style that you're so good at, you told me, let's role play it. So go ahead. I like the product. I just never used it.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, you're great, Andrew, by the way. But in the product, like, looks good, but we literally never used it. So it doesn't really make sense to like keep going with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, totally. I hear you. Just real quick, are you on the toilet right now?
No.
No, I figured you weren't. Most people don't take calls on the toilet, but I assume that you go to Christmas dinner at grandma's house, and maybe that chili just doesn't sit the right way. You might not have been using the toilet right now, but boy, are you going to be glad that it's there when you need it. And I remember that line hit me so,
You're
dude.
taking me back.
Oh, dude, that line got me so many renewals strictly from them pausing for about 2 seconds, laughing a lot, being like, what the heck did this guy just say to me?
What is he saying to me right now?
And then being like, but also like, yeah, true, fair enough. All right, yeah, let's keep her going. Like there's so much in that way that you specifically are just a powerhouse in handling objections, is that you kind of don't. You just laugh at the context of the objection together and just kind of keep going. It's such a powerful way to handle things. And I will never forget that objection handle. It's one of my favorites I've ever heard. And that came from you. So thank you.
Yeah, no, and I can tell you didn't a bunch too, because you still have it in the back of your mind, and it's but there's also truth to it, right? Like it's there when you need it, and like all the effort to get it
100%.
set up and establish it. Like I don't use my insurance hardly ever. Maybe I've had 2 claims in the last 15 years, but it's there when I need it. So like,
yeah, exactly.
Man, oh man. Well, this has been really fun, and I can't wait to connect with you outside of this as well and just catch up some and see what you've been up to amongst everything else we talked about today. But last but not least, where can people get a hold of Andrew Hendry, or where can they reach out and get a hold of your company? Because in the insurance space, there's a lot of individuals tied into the real estate market as well. So where's the best place for them to reach out?
Yeah. So if they're looking to reach out for anything at all, whether it's sales help, I love hopping on these kind of calls and having my team hop on calls like this. And I know you've actually done some coaching with our team as well. Just to provide any value in a sales context, if you just email support@ignite-connections.com, my team can take care and distribute your request there, whether it's for help in prospecting and maybe you need our services, or maybe you need a recommendation for a new CRM, or maybe you just want to, talk back and forth about sales. We're happy to do that too. And my team can redirect your request to the appropriate people.
Beautiful. And then it's ignite-connections.com.
You got it. Yeah. Support@ignite-connections.com. And then our website, obviously ignite-connections.com.
Beautiful, Andrew. Well, thank you again so much for all of your time. And if you would all in the audience, please reach out when you have a chance to Andrew, show him some love. If you took away even one thing from this that's going to help you advance your career, your goals, help you find new clients, or help your team, then we've done our job here today. So Andrew, thank you again very much. Awesome seeing you again, brother. And I hope you guys crush out the rest of December, as I'm sure you will.
Thanks, Andy. God bless.
God bless you, man. Bye.